If you're a pop culture junkie who loves TV, film, music, comedy, and other really important stuff, then you've come to the right place. Get ready and settle in for Classic Conversations, the best pop culture interviews in the world. That's right, we circled the globe so you don't have to. If you're ready to be the king of the water cooler, then you're ready for Classic Conversations with your host, Jeff Dwoskin.
All right, friend. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. You get the show going each and every week, and this week was no exception. Welcome, everybody, to Classic Conversations, episode 132. As always, I'm your host, Jeff Dwoskin. Great to have you back as we dive into classicness, as only we do on Classic Conversations. Today, I've got an amazing guest. Excited to share my conversation with Dava Savel with you. Dava is a writer and a producer. You've enjoyed her work in That's So Raven, The Tony Danza Show, Dinosaurs, Dharma and Greg, Will and Grace, Ellen, and so much more. Speaking of Ellen, Dava Savel is Emmy Award-winning Dava Savel, and she won that for writing the puppy episode of The Ellen Show. That is the episode where Ellen came out, considered to be one of the most important TV episodes of all time. Dava and I talk all about that, and Dava shares a ton more great stories. You're going to love it. We're dishing it big time here on Classic Conversations with Dava, and that's coming up in just a few minutes. Last week's episode, super amazing. Episode 130 with Summer Moore, producer, writer, master creator of Pandemic Pillow Talk, an amazing web series on YouTube. Check out that super fun conversation. And then last week, we also talked to Brian Kiley, comedian and member of the Conan O'Brien team for 20 plus years. He talks all about Conan. So many great stories in both episodes. If you're just tuning in to Classic Conversations, you got over like 130 hours to catch up, so you could just better call in sick to work or something, because there's a test next week. This week on Thursday, we got a bonus episode featuring segments from Crossing the Streams. That's the live show I do every Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow my YouTube channel. Just search the Jeff Dwoskin Show on YouTube, and you can find us there and watch live, comment live. And then we delight the podcast fans with bonus episodes featuring 3 segments from across the 70-plus episodes that we've done. It's TV binge-watching suggestions. So if you're always wondering, what should I watch? Crossing the Streams is the answer for you. It's me and a bunch of my friends, and we're just chatting about shows we've watched, and then you can take it from there. Oh, real quick. Tell me if I'm crazy or not. So my wife and I had a date night. We had a nice, lovely dinner together. And then she wanted to see the Downton Abbey movie. And I hadn't seen Doctor Strange 2 yet. I didn't want to see the Downton Abbey movie. She had very little interest in seeing the Doctor Strange movie. They both were starting at around 8:15 p.m. They're both exactly 2 hours. So we went to dinner together, went to the movies, each saw a different movie, met back in the lobby, and then finish the evening together. Weird? Not weird? Tweet me at Jeff Dwoskin Show and let me know. I'm curious what you think, because we've been getting some feedback from our friends, wondering if it's syncing up. I think it's super cool. Why not? That way we each didn't waste 2 extra hours watching the other movie that we didn't want to see. I think it's brilliant. I do want to thank everyone for their support of the sponsors. When you support the sponsors, you're supporting us here at Classic Conversations, and that's how we keep the lights on. I am so excited to share my conversation with Dava Savel with you. So excited. Dava tells so many amazing stories, and plus the whole oral history of the puppy episode, Ellen's Coming Out episode. It's great stuff, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Here you go. All right, everyone. I'm excited to introduce you to my next guest, Emmy Award winner, television producer, and writer, Dava Savel. Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. This is awesome. Thank you for having me.
So exciting. You have written on so many good stuff. Will and Grace, Sunny with a Chance, which I love. I thought Demi Lovato was great. You know, my kids were the age, so I would watch it every now and then. But I'm a big Demi Lovato fan. I've seen her in concert twice. Dharma and Greg, Grace Under Fire, Dinosaurs. Love, Dream On, and of course, Ellen, which you wrote one of the most important episodes of television ever, the puppy episode where Ellen came out. And I want to talk about that in depth because it's fascinating. It's got to be amazing to have impacted not only television, really probably the world. So it's really great to talk to you. Hello.
Hi, Jeff. Hi. There was actually I don't know, maybe 3 documentaries done on it and an awful lot of interviews. So, but one more, what the hell, right?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about everything. I just want to, just get a little bit of insight on you. It would be silly of me not to, since you're here. How often am I blessed with television royalty such as yourself?
Actually, do you know there's a great expression that I heard when I first started out, and I said I wanted to be a television writer, and somebody once said to me, television writers are rich, but movie writers are royalty. So we never got that title, but we did get the money, which was very nice. At least in the 90s anyway. I don't know about now, but definitely in the 90s.
Dava, what led you to become a comedy writer?
Fell into it ass backwards, like a lot of people that I know, as opposed to now where kids actually, study it in college. Came from acting and improv, part of a comedy team performing in New York City cabaret circuit, which was the only place to perform. In fact, Stiller and Mirror were our mentors. They helped us. They would come to our shows and give us notes and kind of cool. And one night, an agent came to see the show. He gave me his card, and I saw that he was a literary agent. I was really bummed because I was like, I needed an agent as an actor. And I said, I'm not a writer. And he goes, well, who wrote all this? I said, well, I did. With my partner. He goes, well, then you're a writer. And he said, well, listen, you ever get to LA, you give me a call. So I held on to the card, and then years later, not that many years later, actually, we had kind of done as much as we could in New York, and I wanted to make my fame and fortune. So my then husband and I moved to LA, where I discovered I was 3 months pregnant, and I didn't know. In those days, they didn't even have a pregnancy test, a home pregnancy test. So I'm just walking around just feeling a little fat. And I called this agent, met me for lunch, and he saw that I was a little plump. We got to talking, whatever. And he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'll tell you what I can't do. Can't act because no one's going to hire me looking like this. And he said, well, you can write and I'm going to help you. And I said, what do I write? And he said, I want you to write a spec. So I remember I wrote a spec, Cheers. He loved it. I thought, okay, I'm going to get my first job. He goes, no, you got to write a pilot. And I said, well, what do I write a pilot about? I don't know any of this stuff. And he goes, well, comedy is conflict. So what's conflicting in your life right now? And I remember my sister was going through this really bad divorce in New York City where her and her husband refused to leave the apartment because apartments were really hard to come by. So they decided to build a wall within the apartment and live there together. And they hated each other. And I thought, that's pretty, conflicting. So I wrote a pilot based on it. The agent called me and said, you have a meeting about your pilot. And he said, to sign you. I said, you're going to sign me? He goes, yeah, because they thought I was going to sell this pilot. And I met with Ed Weinberger. I was so naive. I thought he was just going to buy the pilot. And he said to me, no, it's to New York. And in those days, to New York meant too Jewish. Didn't understand why he met with me. And he said, I think you're a good writer and I want to keep in touch with you. Meanwhile, William Morris signed me prior to the meeting. So I was kind of in the William Morris hopper. And maybe 6 months after that, first job on a game show, writing jokes for people like Betty White, Vincent Price. And it was really fun. I only lasted 8 weeks or something. And then I got fired. And Gary Shanley hired me, Alan Bell. Hired me for the Shanling Show, and I wrote an episode, and I was never so happy in my life because I was writing what I knew. I knew funny. I knew not network television. I just wanted edgy. There's nothing edgier than Shanling Show. It was on Showtime at the time, Gary Shanling Show. And they offered me a full-time job. They said, you just need to sit down with Gary. And I said, great. And I sat down in a conference room, and Gary walks in. The first thing out of his mouth was, so I hear you have a kid. And I said, yeah, I have a baby, what's the problem? And he said, I can't work with anybody who have children. And I got hired and fired in the same day by Gary.
That's horrible.
It is horrible. You can't do that now, but in those days you could do it. And Alan Zweibel, he felt terrible. And it's funny because after that, like when we won the Emmy and stuff like that, I saw Gary. I saw him on numerous times. And he was always like, I started your career. And I went, you crazy. I said, you hired and fired me at the same day. You're the worst person in the world. But it did get me in. And sometimes you have to accept the fact that when you're making your way up the ladder, sometimes a job, you don't need the job. Just having the script from Gary Shandling's show, a produced script that they paid me for, that was enough to propel my career. I didn't need a year on the show to get me where I wanted to go. It became my calling card, that script, and it was really the greatest thing that ever happened to me because it was an excellent script, and then I just kept moving on from there, going up the ladder, it was great. I didn't tell anybody else I ever had that I had a baby. I didn't tell anybody.
Were there other obstacles thrown up because being a woman, trying to break into this?
Yeah. In those days, it was very, 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 very tough to be a woman. You were like a checkoff, like, I can't think of the word, but just, it's like you have 8 men on staff. Well, we're going to need a woman. And you just felt like you were the token lady. And that's how it was all the time. I have friends who were on Shandling's show and they had a rough time of it. It's really a man's world then, tremendously. Very unkind. Dinosaurs, I was on that. I think there were a dozen men and me. It's tough. You really had to push your way up. And interestingly enough, the generation before me, which was like designing women, and all those women, they all worked with their husbands. It was always teams of women and men. And my group of people coming up, we all came in without partners. And it was much, much more difficult. And now it's so much easier. Well, I don't know. I think it's probably relevant, but it was hard. It was hard there.
With Dinosaurs, please tell me you're the one that wrote Not the Mama.
No, that was Michael Jacobs. He did that. I tell you, I almost was the voice of the mother of Fran. We couldn't find somebody, and so we had everybody else was booked, and we got the voices. We were all set. We were great, but we couldn't find anybody for Fran. And so the first table read, they were like, "Hey, Dava, can you do the voice? Can you read it for us?" Because I was acting, background, and I said, "Sure." And I did it, and I got tons of laughs. And then Disney came to me, and they said, "Really like you. You're very good." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I'm a writer on the show. I'm not going to be the voice." All right. And the next week, the next table read, we still didn't have anybody. They said, "Well, can she do it again?" I said, "Sure." And I did it. And that was it. And they offered me a contract. And the guys were not happy. The other writers were like pissed. I saw already the writing on the wall. And so when we got Jessica Walters, it was like, oh, God, thank God, thank God. I didn't want anybody hating me. It was fun. Dinosaurs was a blast. It was one of the coolest, hippest shows I've ever worked on. It doesn't even get the right kudos for the major players that worked with us. And at the time, the episodes ran, they were like I remember someone telling me it was like 1.3 million an episode. That was unheard of in 91. Unheard of. But we had a massive sound stage with a huge, like a pond full of water. I mean, who has that? You looked like you were walking into, prehistoric times. And they smoked it all, so it was always very foggy. We had to wear gas masks. It was crazy. Then it was like they realized, well, maybe we shouldn't smoke it. Maybe we'll put that in later or something. It was super cool, and all the Henson people and the creature shop people, and everything had to be handmade and made twice as big. It was remarkable. It was such an experience. I've never seen anything like that before. It was really, really super cool. Just to be on the set, just to walk on, and it was just awesome.
It's a great voice cast. I mean, besides, I'm sure you would have been amazing, but Jessica Walter, Stuart Pankin, Sally Struthers, Sherman Hemsley, I mean, just among.
And all the guest stars that came on. I remember, this is a good story. I came on, who was it? What's his name? Buddy Hackett came on to do an episode. So I was a producer, and my exec said, "Hey, listen, why don't you go to, the voiceover, the ADR session, and help Buddy out." and go over his script with him, make sure he's got the lines right. If he needs something changed, change it. And I said, okay, cool. So we're sitting there together, and Buddy Hackett hits on me. I mean, hits on me so bad. He literally takes his hand and picks up my leg and puts it over his leg. I mean, I'm like, Buddy. And he's like, wow, what's the matter? I mean, wow, what do you have problems? I mean, I think you're cute. And I'm like, Buddy, come on. And he's like, he says, come on, what's your name? I said, Dava. And he goes, Dava? What kind of name is Dava? I said, it's my Hebrew name. And he goes, you're a Jew? What the hell am I hitting on you for? I got one of those at home. It was so freaking cute. I went, Buddy.
Oh, man.
Buddy Hackett's story.
I have one of those at home, too. Nowadays, you would you get ruined for a story like that.
I'm telling you, half the shit you can't get away with now. And then, the Me Too movement, I almost laughed when that came out. I was like, really? Now it comes out? How about 15 years ago? That would have been a lot better. 20 years ago.
Right. Well, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. And then
yeah, makes you. It really is it's a boys' room. And if you can't deal with it, it was very hard. Very, very, very hard. You had to put up with an awful lot. It's, and all the female comedy writers that I know got very thick skins. Sometimes not thick enough. Sometimes it was so hurtful. Very misogynistic and stuff like that. I remember the first room I ever ran, I basically gave a list of words I never want to hear in this room. And they all had to adhere to it because I was running the room. I was running the show. And just stuff that I just kind of like went, I'm done, I can't do it. Got better as it went along.
Were there any shows that you said, I'm leaving?
Oh my gosh, there was a show that I worked on. Can I say the names? I don't know if I can. But anyway, but one guy just, the exec producer just like, if you were in the writer's room and you said a joke that he didn't like, he made the writer get up and stand in the garbage can.
Oh, that's demeaning.
Oh, it's so demeaning. It's so demeaning. And I would just, I would always say something. And and one time I was in the hall with this guy and he said, he just like, let me have it. He just said, you drive me crazy. And he took his fist and he wasn't going to hit me, but he was about 6'6", big guy. And he jammed his fist into the wall next to me. And his hand went right through that wasn't plaster, it was like, like whatever. And big hole in the wall. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to, he's going to kill me. And the next thing, I'm going to be dead. So that night we're leaving work and I was with a friend of mine and we walked out and it was at Sony. And I'll never forget, like all the writers had to park like a quarter mile away in the parking spot in the lot. But the exec producers got 2 spots right next to the offices. I was so upset with this guy. And I'm thinking, what, screw him. And I took this guy and I, we took their names, we pulled them out of the parking things. We tossed them in the dumpster thinking, won't we funny, right? And we go to our cars and we go home. The next day we come in, and there's like a pall in the room, in the offices. And we're like, what's going on? And the secretary says, oh my God, did you hear? The guys are going to get fired. I said, what do you mean? The exec producers were like, how do you know? They said, they took their parking spots away. They took out their names. And I went, and you know what? They were fired. They were fired. They were fired maybe a week later. They actually were fired. And I got one of their spots. How about that?
There you go. Karma. That must have been scary, though. To have somebody punch like that.
Yeah, it is. I don't think people can do that now.
No, that's just, oof. That's just horrible.
I'm sure it's still like that in some respects, but I've been on shows where, people are nuts. Brett Butler.
Grace Under Fire.
Roseanne.
Did you work on Roseanne?
I didn't work on Roseanne. I knew Roseanne because I worked on Tom Arnold's show. I'm so blanking on the name of the show.
Was it the Tom Arnold show?
Yeah, I wish it was called the Tom Arnold show. No. And she was the exec producer of it. And she was actually really nice to me, but he was insane. He was insane.
The Jackie Thomas show.
Jackie Thomas show. We were there. Jackie, listen, I was brought on by ABC because the show was failing and there was a love interest that was not getting any play on the show. And they thought maybe they brought in a woman. See what I'm talking about? The token woman who's going to bring up who's going to make the love angle better because she's a woman. Anyway, and, Tom in front of like all the writers and all the people, whatever, introduced me. Oh, we have our new person coming on board. Come on, Dava, say hi. And that kind of shit, And I was like, oh, thanks, Tom, yeah. So as the show went on, I wasn't on it for very long. It was just the last season. I think it was only on one season. And I remember we wthey in the same lot as Seinfeld. And one day, Tom Arnold's parking spot and Roseanne's parking spot, they didn't have names on them. They didn't want anybody to know where they parked. I don't know why. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus made the horrible mistake of parking in Tom's spot. And so Tom decided to take advantage of it, make it a big press thing. So he went to war. So Tom Arnold, his show went to war with Seinfeld over this. Of course, Julia did nothing. She made it was nothing. And I don't know how much you could say on this. I guess you could say anything, right?
You can say anything you want.
Okay. So Tom had one of his minions go over and take soap and write on Julia's car, Julia Louise Dry Pussy, okay? And she gets her car, and she's horrified. And she doesn't retaliate. She just wants to get away. But Tom, taking advantage of the situation, he did something. I don't remember what he did, but he did something to his car. And he's like, oh, look what she did to my car. Well, she didn't do anything. But he wanted an excuse to do something again. So we went back and forth. And they put on, what are those called? Pylons, the velvet ropes.
Right.
And he roped off his parking spot. And the next day there were condoms pulled over the balls of the pylons. It's like, oh, look what they're doing it. And it went back and forth and back. Tom came into the writer's room and he goes, okay, he comes in with a Polaroid camera and he goes, okay, I want a picture of everybody's ass because every day we're going to stick a Polaroid of somebody's ass on the windshield of Julia's car and she's going to know never to park in my spot again. It's like, oh my God. And okay, so now the writers, who are all male, I think it was like two women, me and somebody else, and they start pulling their pants down. He's taking pictures. This is so incredibly wrong. And he's taking pictures. Oh, that's a good one. I see your balls in this one. Okay, yeah, we'll take this one. And he's taking pictures of everybody. Stop. Pull down your pants. I'll take a picture of your ass. And I said, okay, Tom, A, you don't pay me enough to take a picture of my ass. And B, I'm not doing that. It's disgusting. And this is a disgusting thing that you're doing. So I think I don't know. It just built up to where Julia was. She was so upset what was going on. She was really upset. So we were coming out of a run through and in the distance you could see the Seinfeld people. It was like high noon. They were walking towards us. We were walking towards them. And Jason Alexander, he's a really good friend of mine. We went to college together and he was leading the pack. And you saw Jerry, Larry David are way in the back. They don't want anything to do with this. And Julia's not even around. She's stuck in her dressing room. She doesn't want to come out. And Jason comes right up to Tom Arnold and is like, Mr. Arnold, my name is Jason Alexander. He goes, I know who you are. He goes, and this is crazy. This has gotten out of hand. Julia is very upset, and we just want to make peace, and we just want to put this to rest. She made a mistake. She parked in your spot. Can we call it a day? And Tom was like, let me tell you something. Rosie and I, we own this lot. Fuck you, and all stuff. And he walks away, and I look at Jay, and I'm like, Jason, I'm so sorry. I don't even want to say. This guy's insane. He's insane. He goes, Dava, because this has really gotten out of hand. That's the kind of stuff that happened. So, when our show was canceled, I'm sure Seinfeld was like this. They were so happy that, it was over. But it was crazy times.
Whatever happened to the Seinfeld crew and Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
They made no money whatsoever.
I remember little of that specifics of that time, but I do remember that whole Roseanne, Tom Arnold, powder keg phase.
On Jackie Thomas' show, we were shooting our last episode. Roseanne came up to me and she was like, I like you. I want you to run my show. I want you to run our show next year. And I'm like, Roseanne, I would love to run you. I would have fired all the men. She was very lovely to me. She was not, but she was very wary of women around Tom. At the end, she caught him having a little something with an assistant, and she went friggin' ballistic. The word on the street was, I heard about it, but I didn't see it. She got into her car and she just took off, and she drove towards some poor PA walking across the lot trying to get home to kill him, to run him over. And the kid jumped out of the way, and she just screeched off the lot. And that was the end of it. His show was canceled, and she filed for divorce and all this stuff. That's the crazy stuff that happened.
That's an insane story. I remember Tom Arnold, at some point, he married a girl much younger than him who was from Michigan.
I wonder if it was her. We used to call them Twit and Twat, these two blondes. And Twit and Twat would, I don't know which one did which. One would walk around with a little cooler full of water for him, and the other would give him neck massages. Maybe she was Twat. I don't know. But they were like next to him all the time, and Roseanne never said anything, and I think he was caught with one of them. Or maybe both of them. Who knows?
Dava, you have the best stories ever.
Oh, babe, you hang out with me.
I'm so excited. All right, do you want to dish on Tony Danza?
So Tony Danza, I actually love Tony.
I love Tony Danza, yeah.
Love Tony Danza. He and I got along so well. A lot of times these stars, they can really tell when you're ass kissing them. And I never did with Tony. I was always very honest with him. And so when we would do his show and we would shoot a scene, and everybody was, huddled around one of the monitors. And I didn't. I went to the other monitor where the hair and makeup women were. But he would finish a scene, and then he would run over to me and he would say, what do you think? Do you think I did? I said, Tony, you nailed it. That was awesome. But what about if you did this, this, and this? And he'd go, oh, I love it. I'll try it. And he runs back and he does it, gets a big laugh. So he trusted me tremendously. I remember Warren Littlefield, who was running NBC at the time. I remember him coming up to me and saying, I don't know how to give Tony a note without him blowing up at me. He goes, and you get along so well with him. I don't know what to do. And I said, one trick. Always make it sound like it's Tony's idea. And he goes, oh, I love that. And he did. He just turned it around, and then Tony was very happy with it. He was a lovely guy. His cute story. We were trying to find a guy to play Tony Danza's father. And my dad lived in Fort Lauderdale. My dad, this old Jewish guy. And he was like, well, you tell Tony, if he can't find his dad, I'll be happy to play the part. Just like a dad would say to him. Sure. Right. So I'm in this room with Tony Danza and the exec producer. I was exec producer too, but the guy who created the show, and a couple of other people, whatever. And Tony's like, I don't know what we're going to do, man. We got to find someone to play my dad. We have offers out to this one and this one. And as a joke, I said, well, listen, if you can't find somebody to play your dad, my father said he'd do it. And he goes, really? Okay, what's your dad's name? I said, Lou. He goes, get him on the phone. I swear to God. I call my father. He goes, hello? I said, hey, Dad, it's Dava. He goes, hey, babe, what's going on? I said, hey, Daddy, listen, I got somebody who wants to talk to you. I said, it's Tony Danza. He goes, what? And Tony gets the phone. He goes, hey, Lou, it's Tony Danza. And my father goes, and he picks it up. He takes it off a speaker, right? And he's like, yeah. Well, I want to, I heard that you're available to play my dad. And I may just call you on that. And I hope you're okay with, okay, yeah. Well, right? Okay, thanks so much. Here you go. And he hands the phone back to me. I go, hello? And all I hear from my father was, you little shit. And I will never forget. It was the funniest thing, Tony doing that to my father. He was a really good guy, Danza. He's a really menschy guy. But I knew him. He was married, happily married, his kids, now he's divorced. It's a shame. You know what goes on. But working with him was a blast. He was such a professional and a lovely, lovely man. I mean, he has quite a temper, but he never, ever, ever yelled at me. And, he's the kind of guy that he would yell and then he'd send flowers. He was known for that. But he was absolutely delightful.
That's cool. That's good to know. And then one thing of note, you wrote an episode where you reunited him with Carol Kane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun. I had such a good time. In fact, I did an episode. It was a small role. And I said, Tony, why don't we get your wife to play this role? It'll be funny. And he was like, oh my God, I never thought. And we brought him it was great. Yeah, Carol came. We had a bunch of funny people. It's a shame that show didn't go. It was really a sweet show. And I had the best office on that show. I had Sidney Poitier's old office.
Oh, really?
Stunning office. And if I swear to you, Jeff, at least twice a week, if not more, I would get a phone call here. Hello, I have a so-and-so calling from Mr. Poitier. I go, I'm sorry, Sidney doesn't work here anymore. This is my office. This kept happening. And one day I get a call. Hello, yes, I have Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward calling from Mr. Poitier. And I'm like this.
Put him right through.
I said, he doesn't work here anymore, but is there any chance that I could talk to them? She said, no. Like,
I think that was a missed opportunity.
It was totally missed. I was so excited. It was really friggin' cool.
That's really funny.
Yeah, it was cool.
So what was it like working with Demi Lovato? I got to say, when I watched that show, because, my kids would, it's the right age, right? Any of those type of shows, if you have the kids at the right age, you'll hit those shows and there'll be a million shows you didn't see.
They watched That's So Raven too. No, your kid's too young.
I don't know if they watched that one, but they Sunny with a Chance was always on. So I would sit and Demi Lovato cracked me up. Like, I thought she was really good.
She was a great little actress. She was. She went on a slide. It went down. And it was a shame. It was really a shame. She had a lot of stuff going against her, family-wise and stuff like that. She worked really hard, and then she got kind of sloppy. She didn't want to come in. She became very, I don't know. I don't know if I'm sure she was, I don't even know how old she was at that time. But we had people like Justin Bieber would come in to say hi, and Selena Gomez would come in with they were best friends to say hi. We had so many interesting people who just loved her. And it was really fun in the beginning. And then it went down the shitter. And we ended up with a show called...
So Random.
So Random. Yeah, that was the kind of like... And actually that was a lot of fun to do because that was like a sketch show. And we used the best of the people who were on Lovato's show. And it was a crime not to use these kids. They were awesome. Just because she was screwing up. So that's what we did. And that show, I think it ran for a year and that was it. But, it was interesting being part of the Disney camp. I came in on That's So Raven, when Raven was she was 15 years old, and Disney didn't have any network writers. Nobody would have worked. Oh my God, who would have worked for cable? That was the worst thing you could ever do. I had just done Ellen, and I did Ellen, and then I did, Will and Grace, and I did a bunch, and I knew the guy who created the show, and he asked me to come aboard, and I was in between stuff. Nothing was happening. I went, well, shit. I mean, how much you paying me? Okay. So I came aboard, and Disney, to their credit, was very pro
LGBTQ.
Yes, the Q was there too at the time. And they were thrilled to have me. I'm not gay, but they were thrilled to have me anyway. And then That's So Raven ran for 100 episodes. And it was the first time anything had ever done anything. And we were for an Emmy for Best Kids Programming. It marked a time in my life. And I went, it's very interesting being a very big fish in a very small pond. And over the years, the pond got bigger and bigger. And they were like, oh my God, we can get this writer and this writer and this writer. And to Disney's credit, I mean, they grew and became so big. I mean, Hannah Montana and all these big shows that came out of Disney Channel. And really at the end of the day, Disney, God bless them, man, you can still get residuals from Disney. You can't get residuals off of Netflix and anything streaming. There's no residuals. I mean, it's terrible. There's only network residuals. What shows on network? They don't play them like they used to.
Right.
But Disney, it's actually a very, it's not a bad place to work. They were really super nice. So I stayed at the Disney camp. So that's where you go from, That's a Raven to, Sunday with a Chance and So Random. And I did a pilot there with Zac Efron.
High School Musical.
No, it was before High School
Musical. I'm
saying,
yeah.
I know. He was 15 at the time with a big gap in his teeth. He was adorable. It's crazy, right? I mean, you really watch all these kids come up in the world, and they were great. It was a breeding ground for really good talent. Disney went all over the country to find good talent.
And then they would spin off, because on That's So Raven, Kyle Macy was on that, and then he became Corey in the House, his own show. Yeah, they do that a lot, where they'd spin off one character and into another thing when it ended.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're not pretty smart. Tremendous amount of work goes into, all their publicity and their audience participation and all this stuff and all these marketing people. And they know exactly what they're doing and what pops and what doesn't pop. And look at Raven. I came back to run her show, Raven's Home. Kids loved her. That's because of Disney. Ray's already, she's like 35 years old. Doesn't matter. Those kids love her.
Well, she was a Cheetah Girl and
Cheetah Girl. Remember Cheetah Girl?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
I got girls, so
so you know it. You know that whole group.
Right. So would Ellen then be considered part of the Disney family? That was ABC Disney, was it?
Would you think so? No, yeah, Ellen. No. Ellen was an anomaly unto itself. I came aboard the year before she came out and came on as a co-exec producer. And then the next year she asked me to run it. I'll never forget, we were all sitting around her house, hired a great group of writers. And there was another exec producer with me, Mark Driscoll. We were sitting in Ellen's house, having food and drinking and celebrating the new season. And Ellen says, guys, I want to tell you all something. We all kind of stopped and looked at her, and she goes, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be coming out this year. And in that split second, I went, well, it was nice to work on the show. Because we're going to get fired. We didn't get fired. Well, we did, but
not before you produced.
Not before we produced the coming out episode. But I remember it was like the greatest, and then it was like, uh-oh, we're screwed. That was one of the most interesting times of my career. It was the apex of my career. I hate to put it that way because it was so long ago, but you know what? You can't top it because it was a moment in history. It was such a phenomenon that, yeah, it's great to win an Emmy, but I want a Peabody for that. And that's for journalism, that it was an act of journalistic brilliance, not on my part, but it was so difficult. It was so difficult to do that. We had an entire season to do, and it was not the season ender. I think we had 3 episodes, and we did it on purpose, not to make it season ender. We didn't want to be gratuitous. We didn't want to do it during sweeps week. We wanted to make it just, but it was difficult. She had to make her play for it. She had to go to Disney, and we all walked with her, and it was really what she needed to do in her life. She just couldn't live a lie anymore, and she hated what she was doing. She couldn't stand. And how much can you write a show if you can't have relationships? That's what people want to see. They want to see Girl Next Door going out with a guy. If you want to do that, then you got to work towards something. So the entire season was about her coming closer and closer and closer to getting to the place where she wanted to come out. And it was kind of cool creating that season, the arc of that season. So many guest stars came aboard. She kept meeting with psychiatrists. She kept going to one psychiatrist to the next, to the next, to the next. I remember we had Harvey Korman as one of them. And they were just one was better than the next. And of course, the last one for the coming out episode was Oprah. And she was the one that said it was okay to be gay, figuring if Oprah said it was okay to be gay, then it's okay to be gay.
Yeah, whatever Oprah says goes, pretty much, yeah.
As lovely as you would imagine her to be. She's one of the nicest people. She cried in the office, our offices. She watched what we had shot, and she did the tears coming down her face, and she's like, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. Of course, her film crew was right there, too, so I think it probably looked good that she was crying.
It's interesting, the people listening now, that, it's almost been 25 years. And
yeah,
now the idea of somebody being gay on TV or something like that is so norm. But this is what made it okay. And this is what made it normal today. And it was like, this was that first step.
Yes. Also, we were taking a show that had a huge following and that it was a big hit. Ellen was a big hit for ABC. And we were basically shooting it in the foot. I mean, it may have been good for Ellen, but was it good for the show? And in fact, it wasn't, because after we did the show, after we did the coming out episode, although the ratings were through the roof, I mean, Ellen fired all of us after that. And she just got a whole new group of people, kind of like this was the new her. And she wanted to start fresh, and it only lasted one more season. And then they canned it. And then she was like a pariah. She couldn't get arrested in Hollywood. So it's growing pains, I suppose, looking at it that way. Because by the time I did Will and Grace, I remember they didn't have the pitfalls that we had. I mean, they started out with 2 gay characters. I mean, are you kidding me? You can say this and this. We couldn't say any of this. It was amazing, the leap that, but they said they couldn't have done what they did had it not been for what we did on Ellen.
Absolutely. Why do you think Ellen cleaned house after? Because you were the crew that helped her get her voice out there and this message out there.
I don't really know. I'd like to say I know. I mean, one of the people that got cleaned out was her own brother. So, I mean, it's not like she had anything against me personally, but maybe she did. But no, you know what? I saw Ellen after, like you were saying, it was 25, the 20th anniversary of it. And I mean, hugs and kisses like she had just seen me. There's no bad feelings or anything. I guess she just saw herself as somebody different. The problem is that when we did the episode, when you do something like that, you want to make your protagonist, you want to make Ellen vulnerable as possible, because the audience then loves her and they go towards her. And also we wanted to make it so that we all knew she was gay, and Ellen, the character, kept fighting it. And that was what made her so endearing. And so where the audience is ahead of its own of the character, saying it's okay to come out, it was that kind of thing. But Ellen fought it until the very end, and then she finally says in the airport, "I'm gay." And of course, the whole place went crazy. And then the year that she was then out, that last year, my feeling was that she knew more than the audience. It became almost like a club that the audience was not a part of. It was this gay club, and you're excluding your own audience. And I think that's the death of a show. I think what's so wonderful is when the audience learns with the characters. They see their lives through their eyes. And Ellen, I think, screwed the pooch on that last season. But it was really cool. The people who came aboard, Demi Moore, and
Gina Gershon, Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton was really cool. Laura Dern was awesome. And Laura Dern and I have remained friends. We were getting calls from people saying, I'll just say one line. I remember Mick Jagger's people called and said, "Oh, he'll say a line." And it was like, we don't have any lines left. We've given them all away. Everybody was there. I remember
Katie Lang, and then Melissa Etheridge to the theme song of the second part.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Melissa Etheridge was great. They were all great. I remember Tracy Chapman was sitting in the audience. People were just coming to see it. It was really super cool. Of course, we had a huge bomb threat, so we had to empty out the whole audience and then have dogs going through it. And you have no idea the amount of hate mail we got. Disney didn't even want us to see it. It was stacks of letters of hate mail. It was frightening, they're taking out ads, all the Christian Coalition people and all this shit. And it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. Very, very, very frightening. And it was unlike anything any of us had ever been through. So when, and we won the Emmy, I remember Gil Younger, he directed it and he didn't win the Emmy. And his award was right before ours. And when he didn't win it, I went, oh, fuck. I don't think we're going to win for best writing on this. But we were up next, and I think it was, what's his face, from Friends, Matthew Perry announced, and the winner is the writers from Ellen. and we were so excited. I had done a pilot for Bette Midler while I was running Ellen. I used to sneak out. I can't believe I'm saying this. I don't know, it's a podcast. I mean, but I used to sneak out during lunch and meet with Bette on another soundstage, on another studio, because I was like, I mean, who runs a massive show and then is meeting with Bette Midler to do her pilot at the same exact time? But that was the days when you had to spin a tremendous amount of plates because you never knew how long your job was up for. So you kind of like, I wanted to make sure I had another job in the wings. So it was really, really cool. But I saw Bette, her pilot ended up, whatever, it was crazy, her pilot. I saw her walking down the aisle to get the Emmy, and I passed Bette. And she gave me a big hug and kiss, and it was just, I mean, it's stupid stories like that. And, and then you get your award on stage, and then you come off, stage, and then you have to go through a press junket. Because of Ellen, it was a huge press junket. And all the kids who were hired as waiters and waitresses all gave us just like a standing ovation. It was like walking through all these, they were just so happy. 9/10 of them were gay, and they were so happy to be represented. And anyway, so I gave the whole press junket, the whole 9 yards, and you finally leave, and then you have to go through the lobby and go back up the stairs and come in through the back of the auditorium where the Emmys were still going. And as I'm going up the door, I passed, not Mel Brooks, it was Carl Reiner, and he was coming out to go to the bathroom. And he goes, "Oh, look at you got an Emmy." And he goes, "Congratulations." I said, "Oh, Mr. Reiner." I said, "This is a bigger moment meeting you than getting this. Thank you so much." He's a really nice guy, Carl Reiner.
Wow, that's a great story. That's really cool.
It was really cool. Then I got back to my seat, and I just thought, the whole night I'm going, I met Carl Reiner. He's just like, screw the Emmy on your lap. I met Carl Reiner. It was really, really cool. Yep.
That sounds like an amazing night to be rewarded for writing such an important episode. I mentioned to you before, but I rewatched it, part 1 and part 2, and it's great. I mean, even though, spoiler, I knew the ending, but it was so funny. And there was never a moment where you're like, "Oh, that felt dated." It really didn't. It was like, it felt like that could have been done now. And and it's like, so there wasn't anything to me that really aged. You know what I mean? Things normally age, right? And it's like, especially when you do something for the first time. Like sometimes when you watch Friends, like where I explained to some of my friends now, I'm like, it was really a big deal back then. Like they did a lot of things, and they're like, but you watch it now and some of them, you kind of tense up inside. Your stomach gets a little knotted the way they handled it. But the puppy episode was just, I think it remains perfect. I mean, it's like, it really is. I'm not just saying that. It was great. And it's like, it was fun to revisit it.
We had an amazing writing staff. We really did. These guys were top-notch comedy writers. We were, it's funny because when I saw Ellen, in 2000, well, it was like 2008, right? No, could have been that long ago? The 20-year anniversary? No.
It would have been, I think it was in 1997, so...
2007?
No, that's not right. It's 2017.
That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. What am I talking to you for?
Yeah. I can't do math on the fly.
I can't do math either. I'm the worst. I'm worst. They showed the episode because she was doing her talk show. They showed the episode in its entirety to her audience before she started, because the whole Ellen show was dedicated to the puppy episode, and she had like Laura Dern and Oprah and all these people, and the audience loved it. So when I saw Ellen, I said, "Oh my God!" She goes, "It totally holds up. It holds up, Dava. It holds up." I'm like, "Yes, it does. It does hold up." After all these years, I think she's a comedy genius. I really do. She's a tough cookie, but she knew what was funny and she knew what worked.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Ellen DeGeneres' stand-up. The ice, her crunching on the ice and filling the ice up is just, it's like just a masterclass. It was so funny.
Oh my God, yes, about gay people, eating ice. Is that a gay thing to do, eating ice? And brilliant stuff. So much fun. We had so much fun. And the audience was just like hanging on every word because they were just waiting for her to say. They knew she was coming out on this episode. And and ABC, all the executives were so nervous. They were wrecks. It was super, super cool when she finally said it. The place they went berserk. It was fun. It was really fun. And then, of course, it all crashed down on her. So crazy, right? It's just crazy.
Sometimes when you're gonna make such a difference in the world like that, it's just sometimes the payback is more long term than short term. It's
right.
People don't understand what's happening while it's happening, and then upon reflection, everyone can learn from it and grow from it. And I can't even imagine how many people resonated with that episode and came out as a result of it, and just felt better to be part of the world because of it. It's just an amazing thing.
I had friends, my best friend flew out, and my assistant, her sister, who's gay, flew out, and we put them in the scenes. They needed extras, so what the fuck? We stuck them in there and stuff. So they're all in it. So it's iconic for them also to see themselves in the show. And I have at the end of the show, Melissa Etheridge gives Ellen a toaster oven for coming out.
Right.
Right, and she stamps a contract, like a lesbian contract. Okay, you did it. Here's your toaster oven, and I kept the contract. It's just something to keep, from it. It means nothing now.
No, that was a great scene because it was a callback to the joke from the earlier episode, and what was funny about that was when Melissa Etheridge was stamping it, you could tell she was just like, at one point, I think she stamps the actual clipboard.
She didn't care.
She's just like, it was just funny that they still left that in. You didn't redo it. You guys didn't redo it. It's just like, she's just randomly stamping whatever. It was just so funny.
It was Melissa Etheridge was great. They were all great. They were, it's funny when we were after, at the Emmys, after we won and whatever, and you go to this governor's ball. It's just incredibly beautiful, the chandeliers and all the crystal and all the swag. It's like, holy moly, we're all in gowns and you're walking around with this big fat Emmy, and you can't put it down, by the way. And you can't, there's nowhere to put it. It's kind of like holding a purse. That's all you have. And you got your table assignments, and I went to my table and they had me seated next to Ellen. I see Ellen sitting there, and there's two people who are sitting next to her, which is my seat. And I don't know who they are, but I was just trying to be like, funny. And I went, "Excuse me, someone's sitting in my seat," like just being an asshole, right? And the people turn around, and it's Demi Moore and what's his face, who she was married to at the time, and Bruce Willis.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Bruce Willis stands up and goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please sit down." And Ellen was like pissed. She's like, "Get out of here, Dava." She wanted to sit next to them. And I'm like, no. You stay. You're Bruce Willis and Demi Moore. I'm just a peon. I'll leave. Don't worry about it.
Great story. That's oh wow. So I'm sure it's been on the list of 1 million greatest moments in TV history, but the hard part about searching Ellen is because of the new show. It gets all mixed up. Anyway, but the Hollywood Reporter 2010 top 80 greatest moments in TV history. Number 34 is Ellen DeGeneres coming out on television between the fall of the Berlin Wall and number 35, the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Wow, that's kind of interesting.
It's cool, right? And then Variety named DeGeneres as a person who has done more than any other celebrity or public figure to influence Americans' attitudes to gay rights. So it says DeGeneres, but we know, Dava, that you were part of that. So it's really cool. It's awesome.
Best part is that, when people say, "What did you win an Emmy for?" Well, you can pretty much say 9 out of 10 people who say what they won an Emmy for, they go, "Oh, I didn't see that episode." Oh, that's nice. But when they ask me and I say, "Oh yeah, Ellen came out of the closet, the coming out episode," everybody knows it. So if you have to win it for something, that's the one to win it for. And that's what's so cool, is that everybody knows it. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, it's like, it probably is the apex of my career. I've worked a lot since then, but it makes you really, it made me think in a different way. It made me think that I wanted to do more newsworthy or more just something that wasn't just entertaining, that really meant something, that people giving back. And and then I remember someone saying, you're never going to have this again. Television is just more of the same. And it's true. It's an old expression, but it's very, very true. And so I'm happy for what I got out of it. And now I've come to accept that it's just more of the same. As much as you'd like to write shows like Insecure and stuff like that, things that really like break the barriers, and they're just so few and far between. They're wonderful if you can get on those and be a part of that kind of, it's more than history. It's socially relevant things that.
You didn't just break a barrier. You broke a barrier that almost 25 years later and still beyond, right? It still had a tremendous impact and helped so many people.
A lot of letters. I got to tell you, a lot of letters thanking us, people all over the.
Oh, I can imagine.
Which is nice.
So it's a wonderful legacy to have.
Yeah.
Can't thank you enough for hanging out with me. You have, I'm sure, a million more stories, but
Crazy stuff. Those were the times, right? That's the good thing about this business, is that like everybody has a story. And, when you hear them, like Betty White passed away. And I mean, I never got to work with her. Everybody that I know had, and everyone has a beautiful story. There's millions of stories in Hollywood, some that are awful and some that are they're just enlightening. So very blessed to be a part of the club that wants me for a member, I suppose.
Well, I am honored that you spent time with me and came on my show. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
All right. How amazing was Dava? I told you, right? Promised you amazing. You got amazing. So many great stories. So many. It was so fun. Well, with the interview over, calling me one thing. Oh my God, it's time for another trending hashtag from the family of hashtags at hashtag Roundup. Follow hashtag Roundup on Twitter at hashtag Roundup. Get the free hashtag Roundup app, always free, costs you nothing, at the Google Play Store or iTunes App Store. Get a notification every time a game starts. Tweet along with us. And one day, one of your tweets may show up on an episode of Classic Conversations. Fame and fortune await you. Today's hashtag, inspired by Dava's time at Disney and all the celebrities she dished on. Hashtag Disney a celebrity. Can you believe it? Disney a celebrity mashup existed in the hashtag Roundup ecosystem, and we're going to read tweets from it. Hashtag Disney Celebrity was hosted by Petty Probs Tags, a weekly game on hashtag Roundup. All right. Hashtag Disney Celebrity. Take anything Disney, take a celebrity, mash them up. It's a mash-up game. When you mash these things together, what happens? Hilarity. All right, let's read some hashtag Disney a Celebrity tweets. Megan Fox and the Hound, Pinkerbell, the artist formerly known as Prince Charming. These are some great hashtag Disney celebrity tweets to kick us off. Minnie Driver, Mickey Rooney Mouse, Alice Cooper in Wonderland, Finding Leonard Nimoy, Gaston Hardy, Justin Timberlake, Little Kim Possible. These are some great hashtag Disney celebrity tweets, but we're not done. Wreck-It Ralph Macchio, Mickey Gervais, Steamboat Willie Nelson, and our final hashtag Disney celebrity tweet, Brave Grohl. What? All right. Tweet your own hashtag Disney celebrity tweet. Tag us at Jeff Dwoskin Show on Twitter, and we'll show you some Twitter love. Also, all these tweets will be retweeted at Jeff Dwoskin Show on Twitter, at the Classic Conversations Home on Twitter. Well, with the hashtag over and the interview over, it can only mean one thing. I know. Another episode has come to a close. Can you believe it? Episode 132 is now in the books. I'd like to thank my special guest, Dava Savel. And of course, I'd like to thank all of you for coming back week after week. It means the world to me, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for for listening to this episode of Classic Conversations. If you like what you heard, don't be shy and give us a follow on your favorite podcast app. Also, why not go ahead and tell all your friends about the show? You strike us as the kind of person that people listen to. Thanks in advance for spreading the word, and we'll catch you next time on Classic Conversations.